Risk. I'm going to skip that. This is risk. This is 2003 in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Justin Timberlake and Christina Aguilera. What you're looking at, the horror show that you're looking at on the screen, had nothing to do with the traveling production company. The super grid in the building failed. They were 10 minutes away from rolling that stage under the rig. And one of the guys from the Baltimore Union was there, and he said it sounded like they had hit the low E on a piano string. Just one, boom. And the entire super grid gave away. The only thing that still hung was the line arrays. Now, how do you prepare for that? I don't know. The grid had been inspected just 2 weeks before by an engineering company. Mountain Productions put it in. To this day, we don't know. We think it's still in litigation after what? 12 years? These got out on Roadie.net before the cops came in and took away and got everybody out and took all the cameras away from them. So we still don't know where the liability is going to rest. But aside from catastrophic failures like the picture, there are several ways to deal with risk. I like the first one. Avoid it. Don't let it happen in the first place. Yeah, Andre, in a perfect world, that would be beautiful. But that ain't the way the world works, is it? And we all know it's not the way the world works. Transference, mitigation, or acceptance. Avoidance might be, we know you're in a hurry to get out tonight, but we want to put another gig in here after this, so we're going to have our banquet crew help you tear down your equipment. No. Because all of your microphone cable will still have the duct tape on it when you get back to the shop. All right? You may as well throw it away. Things we want to avoid, risk we want to accept. These are things that we sit down. What if? What could go wrong? We've got a set company coming in. Or, hey, we're a sound company, but the people recording the video or shooting the video is another company. Who becomes responsible for audio to video? It's not the same company. If the audio doesn't get on the videotape, I know I shouldn't be using the word tape. Whose fault was it? It could be a bunch of fingers pointing. It doesn't matter. The show failed. The entire reason the client held the meeting in the first place was to have a master video recording that they could send to post-production. And somehow communication dropped between audio and video. No audio got on the tape. If it sounds like I'm talking from experience, I am. And you can hear me using the word tape, right? Back in my days, the highest end thing we had was Betacam. The whole point is, after that kind of thing starts happening, you go to ridiculous lengths to keep it from happening. You never send one wire anywhere. You send two. You send two audio feeds. And on top of that, we started using our own, and I'm really dating myself now, a DAT machine that we had already pre-striped with timecode at the audio desk. We made our own recording that at worst case scenario, worst case, it could still be sent to a post house. And I know it's going to cost more and take more time, but we captured the audio. Because, again, it becomes finger pointing. And the client says, y'all can argue all you want. I ain't paying either one of your companies. And I've seen it happen. We're not paying either one of you. You did not produce a master tape, then we can edit for post. All right? 24-hour hold. I had mentioned this yesterday if you were there. First question we ask the client is, do you have the room the entire 5 days? Or have you sold it back on a dark day? We just want to know so we can make plans in case we have to cover our equipment or move something out in order for you to save $2,300 from the building so we don't have to move any of the equipment. Unplanned events we talked about. The Dixieland Band at the front of stage. The 9-foot elephant coming through the 7-foot door. Presentations at meal functions. They decide they want to show a VHS of the president of the association's college graduation. At noon, my crew went into meal penalty. My union crew went into meal penalty. I want to know beforehand, do you have anything taking place at meals or other places where the crew, the house labor crew, has to take a break, otherwise our rate will change. And the way it works with almost every organized labor, whether you're talking about the IATSE or a private technical group, the moment they reach X number of hours, if they're not given an hour break for a meal, they go to the next pay scale, which is normally time and a half, and they stay on time and a half until they're given an hour break. What would that do to your labor budget? Simply the client coming up at the last minute with something like what we're talking about. Rehearsal schedules. We used to have clients say, the board of directors that's going to present tomorrow is going to come in, go out, have dinner and drinks, and come in and rehearse. Oh, no. You get 6 drunk executives up there. And they don't realize they're being charged 3 hours for a rehearsal because that's how most labor works. I don't care if you're on stage for 5 minutes or 2 hours and 59 minutes. A rehearsal is considered a show call. Client will be charged 3 hours for it. You want to make sure the client is very well aware of this before they get there. And they may decide, it's not worth paying that 15 people 3 hours. We'll meet in the hotel room. We'll do it whichever way you want. I just need to let you know that if you want full show crew for a rehearsal, this is what you're going to be charged for. And there's the things that we're trying to make our clients a little bit more understand that end of the business. Peak delivery times. Don't try and get into a resort or a convention hotel at 8 o'clock on a Monday morning, because that's when the food truck, the laundry truck, the trash truck, the vegetables and the meat and laundry deliveries are all done. You may be fifth in line. You better make sure there even is a loading dock at the venue. That's why we think site surveys are so important on larger shows. All right? I've seen a 50-foot semi come in, there's no dock plate, and we have to rent a forklift or put 4 more men on the call because no one brought a ramp. We are dead stopped, and we haven't even gotten the first piece of equipment off the truck, and we're late. Okay? Never ignore an entertainment contract rider, ever. In a lot of Pro AV situations, on the second or third night of the convention, they're going to bring everyone in and have a band, a well-known band come in, all right? The band has sent an entertainment rider to the client, not to us, because we're the production company. We said, we need the rider. And the rider says, we need 250 VL5s, 44 monitor mixes, 26 sets of IEMs. I'm being exaggerated. Folks, 99% of the time, they know this is a bus and truck. It's what they call a corporate gig, right? But if you don't get back with that road manager and say, look, this is a corporate gig. This is what I got. I got 50K of lights. I got 12 movers. And I got a basic on-stage monitor system. The road manager will usually say, Andre, don't worry about it. We're a bus and truck. We're not even coming in for a sound check. The bus is going to drive up. The artist is going to get out, come in, do their set, get their check, and get back on the bus. Tell me what you have, and I'll tell you if we can work with it. And 9 times out of 10, as long as it's basically reasonable, they're good with it. But if you fail to contact the road manager and get that approval, the band does not even have to get off the bus, and they will still get their check. It's in their contract. Never blow off an entertainment rider for a corporate gig, because the clients do it. And if they were going to get 20 grand and they walk in and no one has contacted them, no one has said, and they come in and kill us, well, there's not 250 movers up there aren't 12 on-stage mixes, we're getting back on the bus and our lawyers will be calling you tomorrow. We've seen it happen. So you got to take that very, very seriously. The best planning will cover maybe 80% of the issues encountered on site. You're going to need the rest of the time for the stuff you didn't know what was going to happen. That's why we say preparation is 60% of a show. 30%, 60% preparation, 30% execution, 10% follow-up. My idea is I want to have my crew alive and well and doing as good a job on the last day of the show as they did on the first day. Because it's my crew that's going to make us successful. The people operating and running the gear. Not me, not the PM. But my crew is up there that is showing the magic to the client and winning that client over for the next time they come back to town or the next time they're looking for a production company. Want to talk a little bit about labor? Who was here yesterday? You saw that question? That was a shill question, by the way. Who's still in here? Mark? Sean? I was a member of IATSC Local 69 for 10 years, from 1978 to about 1990-something or other. So I worked both sides of the fence. I'm no longer a member, but I teach the IAT. Infocom teaches the union. We started a year ago. We're trying to bring them into the new world, trying to bring the IATSC into today's modern environment. Because as we all know, it's been an issue for years. And we're trying to build a bridge. They're starting to pay for training. They know they need to know more than they know now. They understand that if they want their union to be around 15 years from now, they darn well better change their attitudes and start getting into technical training. And it boils down to this. If you're going to have to pay for a union shadow anyway, you know what I'm talking about? A union guy that ain't going to work, but if you're there, he's got or she's got to be there. changing him from a shadow to an actually functioning member. All right, if you got a shadow for a grandma, then or a grand MA or whatever, you want someone who can run it, not someone who just sits behind it. Okay? So those things we're starting to see starting to happen. What we're looking at is jurisdiction, work rules, premium time, penalties, and payroll services. First of all, you got to find out what the building is. If you're going to go into McCormick Place in Chicago, and even to do a medium-sized meeting room, you will use a minimum of 4 of the locals to get the stuff from the truck to the meeting room. Teamsters unload the trucks, stagehands roll it in. If it's a lighting system, electricians set it up, but stagehands operate it. Does it sound convoluted? It is. You have to get the work rules. Never book labor in a strange city until you have called or contacted the labor and say, I need a copy of your current work rules, which tells you exactly what skill level costs what. Too many companies have a tendency to take the basic level and then base everything on that. You're going to pay a lot more for a professional camera operator than you're going to pay for a loader. It's just natural. But if you haven't done your homework, this is why that's most of the problem we have with a lot of organized labor is the client, us, is not doing our homework on what things actually cost. We are just taking it and going, that's a real big, thick thing. I don't want to read it. Just say everything's $35 an hour and we're going to be good. No, that never happens. And again, this is not this is not a presentation on that, but in one place you could have all of these: truck loaders, stagehands, electricians, projectionists, decorators, split jurisdictions. That's the lighting systems in McCormick. The electricians union has to set them up, but the stagehands have to operate it. So you got 2 different groups of people in there from point A. It's fine, but you need to know about it in advance so the client is getting a reasonable labor estimate. The event type can change all wages. And there are different cities. If you're in New York, if you're in LA, if you're in Chicago, all right? If your event is considered a commercial event or an industrial event or a video event, there are 3 different work scales that go along with it. And you won't know until you contact it what your event is considered. No sense trying to do a labor estimate if you don't know which base rate to start with. All of these things become very important. I already talked about scales within scales. Rehearsals and shows are normally a 3-hour period, no matter if you run them 1 minute or 2 hours and 59. That's why most rock concerts end in 3 hours. Because after 3 hours, the crew goes into another show call. And the promoter does not want to pay another 3 hours so they can do 1 10-minute encore. Well, it makes sense from the money side. Promoter's there to make money. You can't beat them up for that. Straight time and premium time. And this is the key for those who were here yesterday, and I might have had the graph to explain it. And again, straight time and premium time, not only number of hours worked, but when hours of work began on a given day and when they ended on a given day. And an example that I didn't show yesterday is here. For instance, a hand comes in at 6 o'clock at 8 o'clock. We know that any work done between midnight and 8 a.m. is going to be double time. So we know 6 to 8 a.m. at $30 an hour becomes 60. Then the hand works from 8 o'clock till 11 a.m. He's back on straight time because we're between 8 and 5. All right? $30 an hour. Lunch, he's gone. From 12 to 3, $30 an hour. But what happened at 3 o'clock? 3 o'clock suddenly went to $45? Wait a minute. Didn't that scale say that between 8 and 5 it was straight time? So what did we miss in the slide before? When hours of work began on a given day. What time did they start working? That's when the 8-hour period started. Didn't matter if it was straight time or not. That's when work began. So at 3 in the afternoon with 1 hour for lunch, they're into time and a half. And here you had budgeted $240 to $260 a day, and you get a bill for $390, and everyone freaks out. We got screwed. No, you didn't. You didn't do your homework. The law states that the labor organization must furnish you a copy of the work rules, but you have to ask for them. Hey, they're there to get work for their people, right? Their job is not to save you money. Their job is to keep as many of their hands working as they can. It's business. And it can be negotiated if you'll do it farther enough. If there's a special case, if the client's pulling something weird on you, you can talk to the labor and say, look, we got a strange thing here. I'm trying to let the client do this part of the show without running their labor into the ground. And sometimes they can help you, sometimes they can't. But at least during the preparation phase, we have time to negotiate. You cannot negotiate once you get to show site. It's done then. They've already made their calls. But 2 weeks out, 3 weeks out, you got a luncheon presentation, maybe you can work something out where the client doesn't have to pay as much to do it. And then we're just doing our best to help our customer maximize their investment in this particular thing we're doing. Now, here's another one, stewards. Boy, I still hear this. Andre, I called for 11 guys, and 12 showed up, and I got really angry. I said, "What, did you read the work rules?" And he said, "What's that?" I said, "If you would have read the work rules, you would have found out that past a certain number of men, a steward is assigned. Sometimes they're a working steward, sometimes they're a non-working steward. Now, for a small crew, you might think, well, that's money we don't want to spend. But I found is when I got a crew of 18 to 24 stagehands, I want the steward there. Because I can't keep track of those 18 people. I'm expecting my steward to do it. And if I have a beef with the crew, I never go to the crew directly. Never show them up in front of anybody else. People get very defensive. I go to the steward and say, I haven't seen Bob or Joe since 9 o'clock this morning. Can you tell me where the blank they are? You see what I'm getting at? Past a certain number of crew, I want a steward. Because I can't boss and track that many people, plus my own crew, plus try and keep the client happy while we're doing this setup during the day. There's the other one you got to watch out for, short turnaround. This was put in because producers, years and years ago, producers would work a crew till 3 o'clock in the morning and then tell them to go home and go to sleep and be back at 6. By the time the person gets to their car, drives home, grabs a shower, it's time to turn around and get to come back. So they instituted the short turnaround. That's saying pretty much, once the employee gains an overtime rate, let me give you a better example. We used to say, what time do we want the crew back here tomorrow? We want them here at 7. All right, we want to make sure we're out of here at 11 o'clock at night. That gives them 8 hours off. And I don't go into short turnaround. Well, Andre, what the heck? Let them go into short turnaround. No. You don't understand. The moment they are going into short turnaround, they are paid the next highest rate to drive home and shower and sleep for 2 hours. And when they get back the next morning, they're still on that rate. What would that do to your labor budget? In other words, if they were at double time at midnight and you didn't give them 8 hours, you sent them home for 4, but wanted them back in under 8 hours, when they came back in the next morning, they are on double time. And they will stay on double time until they get 8 full hours off. I'm not debating this. I'm just saying this is the way it is in most organizations, and not just unions, but most technical labor organizations. This keeps the client from taking advantage of the crew. Because the client used to say, well, work them all at once till midnight, then bring me a fresh crew in the morning. They won't do that anymore. Because it's the producers trying to get out of having to pay the overtime hours. And again, I'm not here to debate the merits or not of it. I'm just saying this is the way it is, and this is the way it is pretty much all over the country. You got to ask for the work rules. You have to become more educated on how to book labor is what it all boils down to. Most of the time nowadays also, they will require you to use a payroll service company. Most of the locals that I know and most of the technical service, even the private ones, say, we will not take money directly from you. We either want you to write an individual check with FICA and withholding to each one of our members, or you use a payroll service. The payroll services indemnifies your company. You write one check to the payroll service company, they then distribute it, do all the FICA, the Social Security, and all the withholding. The reason you want the payroll service company in between you and labor is to keep unemployment claims from coming against your company 3 months from now. If a technical labor person is out of work for a while, they may go to the employment and use your company as the employer of record, even though they only work with you for 3 days. So sometimes a payroll company, now you pay extra points, I think 10, 15% sometimes. But for what they save you, it's almost worth doing it.